Hey minions, welcome to Crank It Up. I'm Jim Price, and on this episode of Action Awareness, I want to talk about All for One of the Musketeers. Given their catchphrase, you had to know that at least one of their cards would be named this. The goal of this video, however, is to show why the card should be called All for at least one. All for One encapsulates the Musketeer strategy well. Go big or go home, and do it all at once. This card has to cover a lot of ground with finite text, and it's easy to overlook a few things. First, it's a play on minion action. Any minion, not just yours, though I don't know why you would want to put it on someone else's. It gives you an extra action. This is important because it allows you to trigger All for One's ability on the same turn you play it if you want to, but it's sometimes the case that you don't want to if you are setting it up in advance. Regardless, All for One does not trigger until you play another action that directly affects the chosen minion. It does not expire the turn it was played without this trigger. Once triggered, you will destroy the card at the end of your turn, which should theoretically never happen. This is because if you trigger it, you are intending to break the base this turn, otherwise you are wasting the most powerful card in the Musketeer set. Consider the other Musketeer actions. You have 2 copies of En Garde, which add +1 power. The replacement card and extra action are great, but it's still 1 temporary power. One for All adds +1 power to all minions on a base, but the Musketeers are short a minion. Biding Time adds +2 power, which is the lower boundary of acceptable power for actions of its class. There is never earth-shattering power. But All for One doubles the output of most of these actions by supplying extra, free power. It makes the Musketeers, who are gloriously inefficient, a lot easier to plan. With the Musketeers in general, there's a common pitfall. They have temporary power, and they have card draw. Temporary power means that if you fall short, you lose everything. So players will start their chain hoping that they will draw the right cards they need, only for it to come up 1 power short, or sometimes significantly less. Where is A when you need it? Alternatively, players will simply hoard Musketeer cards until they are absolutely certain, and this means a lot of drawing cards and not doing anything. This is boring play, and worse to play against because it's hard to counter. That's why I love All for One, because it strikes that balance and creates that needed efficiency. And if you find the right minion, it becomes even more efficient. There are 2 main options for All for One, D'Artagnan and Athos. Honestly, both are great targets. It depends on what you want to accomplish. All for One implies that you are going to be playing a lot of actions that affect the minion, so playing it on D'Artagnan will net you a lot of cards. It makes it easier to suffer playing so many weaker cards which just replenish themselves. This will cost more cards, but it will also cycle through your deck faster, which has value. If you value power over cards, however, Athos is your choice. Athos is like a version of All for One that gives power to everyone else, so All for One ensures that everyone is getting power from each action. This is particularly good if you are going the one for all route. It's a double feature, so instead of +2 power to all your minions, you are getting +4 per minion. That can let you drop a lot of power unexpectedly, which is great for comeback strategies. The play on minion nature of the card is also subtly important. It's the only way to make this action directly affect a minion by virtue of playing the card, which allows it to be retrieved via Token of Affection. And since that would allow All for One to be played as an extra action, which itself will give you another action, you can immediately chain it into your big combo. Note that Token Affection can also retrieve it from the discard pile, so you have the potential to play All for One twice. The only question is, do you have enough cards to warrant that? One of my favorite plays is to use Make Way on my All for One minion, which will again trigger the card. This is convenient on an Athos-style play where Athos is distributing power to all minions, and then you want to move him elsewhere for a 2-base attack. If you can math it out accordingly, you can save an action or 2 by playing Last Stand, knowing it will trigger All for One last time. I've heard a lot of players complain that Last Stand is never used, and I think it's because players allow themselves to overtake a player too early. There are times when you can use the Musketeer cards to break a base by yourself, but this costs too many cards. Instead, I like the idea of winning 16 to 15 and saving a card or 2 by using what is admittedly a harder to use special, one that is intentionally not a 23 special. Still, it's a fair question to ask. Can All for One get a second chance? All for at least one? Maybe you don't need to. Whenever you build up a singularly powerful minion with a card like this, it's better to try and persist that minion and send it to another base. I've already talked about Make Way doing this, but there are other better ways. For starters, it's a pretty good first mate play if you haven't figured that out, although it's hard to get the first mate to ridiculous power levels. Double digits, yes, but not quite Wrecking Ball status. Instead, target cards like You Call This Archaeology or Gone with the Wind, where the minion can be sent into another base and get even bigger for doing so. My preferred method is to use a Deep Fryer to send it into another base, preferably with another Deep Fryer to send it into a third base. Hopefully Been and Gone is mixed in there somehow. The great thing about this combo is that the clerics excel at getting back your cards from the discard pile 2 at a time. With the musketeers, it's easy to have at least 5 cards in your discard pile, sometimes even mid-chain. If you keep your discard pile light, then play all 4 of your main power cards that play extra actions, the Cardinal is pretty guaranteed to get 2 of them back, which can then be played again and trigger All for One twice more. All for One can be played onto a Cyberback, who can immediately start a massive chain, particularly if you play On a Roll, since both of those actions can be from the discard pile. Play On a Roll with 2 in guards to function like a time loop, and you may end up with 2 terminal actions which are perfect for Juiced Up and Flying Monkey. That will net you at least 2 bases. Yes, All for One is played on 1 minion, but the goal is to get multiple bases. Otherwise, you are just burning cards for a big play that would otherwise seem unnecessary given the extraordinary effort. If you are a fan of the 0 to breakpoint strategy that All for One provides, it's easy to facilitate. 2 Battle can play the minion you intend for All for One, while also playing All for One. That extra action that All for One gives is so key to the strategy because it sets off the chain immediately if you want to. You still have your regular minion, and with the right 2 minions, a smaller base could be yours alone. All for One can still be used more moderately if you choose not to go that route. I really like this with the princesses because of the double heirloom play. Seed a minion with 1 heirloom on a previous turn, and then play All for One to lead into On a Roll. Those 2 heirlooms turn the heirloom power from 1 to 9 for a gain of 8, plus 2 more power for All for One, not including any other benefits. With 2 augmentations, the same strategy can give you plus 10 power quickly. With King Rex, there is a legitimate 0 to 17 combo with only 5 cards, which can get you 3 points easily, and 4 with the right base. And you still have cards left over to play All for One a second time. As I like to say in Action Awareness, this is a strategy-defining card. It's important that every faction has one, and it's clear that this is the one for the Musketeers. It allows you to embrace the big play without being reckless, and it is really just a fun card. Newer players may not be able to unlock its full potential, but the Musketeers are a great challenge faction for anyone who can master their abilities. The card may be All for One, but when played appropriately, 1 card will give you more than 1 base. What do you think of this action? Let me know in the comments. That's it for this week. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. Let's shut it down.